your chance to shine. When ripples roll, you rise. When darkness comes, shine on your light. So I can get my strength from you tonight. Hail every ounce of pain, hail every ounce of faith, hail every inch of grace. Hail every ounce of cheer, hail every truth we hear, hail all that we hold dear. When darkness comes, that's your chance to shine. When ripples roll, you rise. When darkness comes, shine on your light. So I can get my strength from you tonight. Hail all the honesty, hail all that sets you free. When darkness comes, that's your chance to shine. When ripples roll, you rise. When darkness comes, shine on your light. So I can get my strength from you tonight. When darkness comes, that's your chance to shine. When ripples roll, you rise. When darkness comes, shine on your light. So I can get my strength from you. I can get my strength from you. I can get my strength from you tonight. Can you stop it now?
Welcome to Wellsprings. I'm Kathy Burke-Howe. My pronouns are she and her, and it's my honor and blessing to serve as your worship leader this morning. Each week when we gather, even when we must gather at a distance, we light a chalice, not only as a symbol of our spiritual heritage as Unitarian Universalists, but also to call upon that divine spark within each of us, both emerging and eternal, and invite it consciously to be present with us here and now. Today I've asked my husband Ted Howe to come forward to light our chalice, and after he's done so, together we will say the words up on the screen. And together we say, we light our chalice to celebrate the path lit before us, the warmth of kindness that shines from within us, and the radiance of wisdom that is shared between us and never goes out. Thank you, Ted. Good morning. Our mission here at Wellsprings Congregation is to be a community charged full with the charge of the soul. And today, this first Sunday of worship in a time of social distancing, that charge of the soul is an asset that we can grow within our own homes, an energy we can share with strangers and friends, with our families and coworkers and first responders and healthcare providers and teachers and political leaders. I have some really, really good news for you this morning. The charge of the soul is contagious. This week, we've all been riding a roller coaster, haven't we? It's not an easy time to be human. Suddenly, most of the things that we do every day, most of our regular routines, even most of our unconscious patterns, have become subject to analysis and scrutiny and reconsideration. Should I stock up on groceries or avoid the crowd at the store? Should I go to the office or work from home? How long do I lather my hands when I wash them? And oh my gosh, who knew how many times every hour I touch my face? This time is calling us to being more mindful, more careful, more intentional with our actions and our movements and our associations than most of us have ever been called to be. I know it's tempting to choose the easy button, to isolate, to stay in, choose what feels like safety over risk. But my hope for us all and for myself is that this time will encourage us, require us even, to spread the charge of the soul we share as far and as wide as we can while we care for one another from a distance. Social distancing is essential at this time, but the connections that feed the charge of the soul are more important than ever. And social distancing does not mean the same as isolation and disconnection. I'm a person who uses Skype and Zoom for conference calls on a daily basis in my job, but we don't usually use the video, only the audio conference and screen sharing. But in the last 48 hours, I've turned on the webcam and spoken with my colleagues and friends and family face to face more than I've ever done before. I've FaceTimed my parents rather than just calling them. I'm walking my dog in the neighborhood and waving at my neighbors rather than just letting the dog run in the fenced yard. Last weekend, I went for a walk in Valley Forge Park and I greeted my friends with elbow bumps and air hugs. All of these things I was able to do while maintaining good social distancing practices, and I feel more connected than ever. We are a community charged full with the charge of the soul. We remain charged full by nurturing and spreading the charge of the soul. I'm excited to be with you all here today and to mingle the charge of my soul with the charge of your soul. Our soul's charge is contagious, and that's a good thing for today. So normally, this is where I'd call your attention to our order of service and the single sheet within it, the point of which is all of the ways to connect and communicate with us throughout the week. So instead today, I just want to make sure you know about all of the ways to stay connected with our community, even when we can't be in the same room. We have a website at www.wellspringsuu.org, where you can find phone numbers and email addresses to reach our ministers and all of our staff. We have a public page on Facebook called Wellsprings Congregation and a private group on Facebook called Wellsprings Oasis. Search for each of those names and you'll find us there with you. We also have a Twitter account at WellspringsUU and an Instagram account at Wellsprings Congregation. And if you're not already on the mailing list for our weekly newsletter, this is a great time to get added to it. On our website, click More in the top navigation and then click Get Connected. From there, you'll find the button where you can sign up for our newsletter. Please do it. Help us to stay in touch with you and keep you informed. And it goes without saying, anytime, but especially in these strange and difficult times, please reach out to us anywhere, anytime. I'd like to highlight a couple of announcements today. First, it goes without saying, but if you're seeing this video, you know Wellsprings has responded to the COVID-19 pandemic with the decision to suspend in-person gatherings until further notice. We do this to be intentionally caring for ourselves, our neighbors, our healthcare system, and our local and global communities. This means we'll all be called upon to be creative and caring in how we nurture our connections and our community while maintaining social distancing practices. Today's service by video is one way we're growing into this call, but it's by no means the only way we can cultivate our own growth and the growth of our relationships in community. I want to call on each of you watching to identify and act on one way you can connect to Wellsprings Congregation today. Second, if you're not already familiar with the message series guide distributed by our spiritual development ministry team, now is a great time to introduce yourself to that resource. If you're connected on Realm, you got a link to it in your inbox. If not, you can go again to our website, www.wellspringsuu.org, click News in the top navigation bar, and scroll down, and you'll find it there dated March 4th, 2020, titled Being a Friend, Resource Guide from the Spiritual Development Ministry. I encourage you to print out a copy and use it throughout this message series. I promise you, it'll enrich you. At Wellsprings, the foundation of all that we do is the power of connection, of making space in our hearts and in our lives for one another. This is the part of the service where we honor that connection by greeting one another. In this extraordinary time, our options for greeting one another in person might be limited for our own good. But let's not let that give us the false impression that we can't connect or that we're alone. Take a few minutes now to safely greet anyone in your physical sphere. And let's act now on some of those ideas that we thought about a few minutes ago. Right now, can you send a text message or an email to someone from Wellsprings? Right now, can you make a connection with one other Wellsprings person who's not in your space? Or make a commitment of a time for a real-time conversation? And by all means, now is a great time to hop on to one of Wellsprings' social media channels to share a greeting. I'm going to spend a few minutes in the Wellsprings Oasis group on Facebook during our service time, and I'll look forward to connecting with you there. I invite you now into our time of generosity, a time to reflect upon and to express our gratitude for all the ways that Wellsprings plays a role in our own lives and in our wider world. Generosity at Wellsprings is shown through time, talent, and treasure, and each of us chooses how and when and how much to share in each of those ways. Through our generosity, we generate and share resources our congregation uses to manifest our vision, called to make the world whole. Today, we can't pass hats or offer you a box in the back of the room, but now more than ever, it's a great time to leverage our online and text giving options. If you have a smartphone handy, you can pick it up and text WSprings to 73256 to get a link that'll help you complete a gift online. There's also a link to give included in the email you received this morning. Our offering will now be gratefully received. Just as we've taken the time to share the energy of connection among us and generosity beyond us, let's now devote some time to reground into the deep and soulful energy that's within ourselves. We do this by doing what is most simple and elemental in our lives. We take a breath. We inhale and exhale without rush or hurry. We breathe in and we breathe out. There's nowhere else to go, nowhere else to be, and nothing else to do than to be here together now. We follow these words from Thich Nhat Hanh into our time of mindful silence. If we want to enter heaven on earth, we need only one conscious step and one conscious breath. Let us cultivate peace and experience presence in this quiet time together. wherever it is that we are, whatever it is that we're doing, however it is that we're feeling, let us remember that peace and presence is always as close to us as is our own breath. May this be so for you this day. May it be so for you in the days to come. And may it be so for all of us. And now is the time that the youth of our congregation will join Miss Carol for Youth Spirit. Wait, Miss Carol, are you here?
Hello everyone, it's me, Miss Carol, and I have a special message for all Wellsprings Youth Spirit friends and anyone under 18 and their families. First, I want to extend my sincerest wishes that you all are well and that you will stay well as we take a little break from gathering at Montgomery School. I'll sure miss seeing you, Miss Jen, Miss Kristen, Helen, Noah, and all of our great volunteers in person over the next few weeks, but by staying home, we are all taking care of each other, which is what friends do. So I want to let you know what will be happening for Youth Spirit in the coming weeks. We're going to use an online program called Zoom to try and gather together virtually, live, for the last 2 Sunday mornings and a few other times in March. For our Sundays together, we'll do some things similar to when we are together in Youth Spirit. We will light our chalice, we will say our opening words, and we'll do some activity together, perhaps read a book or just chat. We made clay chalices last year. Does anyone remember? If you still have yours, I hope you'll light your own chalice when we gather together next Sunday. We'll also have another chance to get together, possibly Friday evenings or other times during the week. So far, we've planned a bedtime story and an ice cream social. I wonder what other ideas or activities could we do online together. I'd love it if you could share your ideas, parents too. Please email your ideas to me at carolb@wellspringsuu.org. Lastly, Wellsprings teens, stay tuned. We're working on ways to help you stay connected as well. If you have ideas for us, please share them. So that's it for now. Please ask your parents to check Realm for details on how Youth Spirit and other Wellsprings youth can gather virtually these next few weeks. I look forward to seeing you all online for Sundays and more in March. I'm very excited to see how this interesting experiment unfolds as we learn and connect together in new ways.
There are no countries, there are no sides. I don't know why they draw these lines. I don't know what you see here, but cast our dawn into the stream, tenderly waking like a child. Another new day born inside. You like the small, you know you could. If nothing else, do something good. You like the small, you know you could. If nothing else, do something good.
Hi everybody. I'm coming to you from my kitchen, and no, this is not a fancy new Instagram filter. I did do this to my hair this week, but none of you have seen me for a few days because none of us have seen each other for a little while. And I know that for so many of us this week has really been wild, right? A lot of different things going on. For some of us, a lot of stress, a lot of uncertainty, a lot of fear. This moment might be the first time in a few days that you have had a chance to stop. So if that's true for you, stop. Take a minute. Let your eyes close. Take a deep breath, let your shoulders fall. When things change in the world like this, especially when we have these eerie situations where so much is changing and yet a lot of other things seem totally normal, it throws our insides into all kinds of turmoil. We are trying to make sense, both intellectually and emotionally, of so many different things at the same time. So I am glad that you are here. I'm glad that you're taking a moment to just be where you are. You are here and you're alive and you're with us. And together we are a ton more prepared and capable for whatever is coming. When we're together, we're in a much better place to be able to face it. Our message series for this spring has been all about being a friend to each other. And I was going to talk today about mutual support, which feels relevant. I was going to talk a little bit about how often we see that phrase, "you are enough," and how, while it's so true that we are each beloved and worthy and whole, we also are made to be interconnected with each other, right? In your family, maybe there's one of you who cooks and there's one of you who does the dishes. Maybe somebody is the fun one in one of your friendships or relationships, and somebody is the one who makes sure that all the bills get paid. Maybe in your workplace, in your neighborhood, you're the one that prepares while somebody else is the one who performs. Or maybe you're the one with the best jokes and it's somebody else who knows how to console. All of us need all of us. None of us actually can do it all by ourselves. Being a friend in these times, but really in any time, it's all about remembering how much we rely on each other and prioritizing that. We depend on those various parts that all of us plays. What we're doing right now in this country feels like some kind of bizarre, large-scale spiritual practice to me, right? It's like a big sacrifice that we are making. And I don't know if we've ever attempted spiritual practice on this scale in America before. The closest examples I can think of are things that happened before I was born. The stories that people tell me about what it was like in World War II, what it was like during the Depression. And I hope that because we're making these big changes right now, that comparisons to things like that will seem ridiculous in the future. I hope that by being as kind and as careful as we can with each other right now, those comparisons will seem way out of scale. There's a story that I love from a podcast I listen to. It's a podcast that maybe you should start listening to, because we might all be listening to more podcasts in the days to come. It's called The Anthropocene Reviewed. Now, I had to look that word up also. The Anthropocene, which is the human-centered experience of the planet, right? So there is scene all around us, and there's anthro, us, right? So the Anthropocene Reviewed is a podcast that the host John Green describes as a podcast where we review different facets of the human-centered planet on a 5-star scale. So he reviews in maybe 5 or 10 minutes just anything and gives it a 5-star rating somewhere in there. Here's a short but incomplete list of the things that the host John Green has reviewed. He's reviewed the song Auld Lang Syne. He's reviewed sunsets. He's reviewed the Notes app on your phone. He's reviewed chemotherapy. Probably didn't go so well. He's reviewed the human capacity for wonder. He's reviewed Hawaiian pizza, very controversial. He's reviewed rock, paper, scissors as a decision-making tool. He's reviewed prom, and the idea of love at first sight. On episode 8 of this podcast, John Green reviews whispering. And he tells a story about the first time his daughter, Alice, whispered to him. He starts off first explaining that he has this other friend, a friend of his named Alex. And he says Alex is usually a pretty calm, chill person, but whenever he's running behind or he's on a tight schedule, Alex will become totally different. He's visibly stressed and anxious. He says things to his family like, "We've got to get a move on." And John Green says when he gets like this, Alex's wife, Linda, calls him Airport Alex. So John Green says, much to my chagrin, he says, I am usually Airport Alex. John Green worries constantly. He's worried about being late for appointments. He's worried about things being canceled. He's worried about people leaving him. His daughter, he says, is never Airport Alex. He remembers this one morning when she was just 3 years old. His wife was out of town for work, so everything Alice related was his responsibility. And he said it was 8:37 a.m., 23 minutes from being late to daycare. My daughter was eating her toast excruciatingly slowly. Long pauses in between bites to consider her picture book that she'd brought to the table. And he says, I kept telling her to finish. This is your 8-minute warning, I'd say, as if she had any idea at 3 years old what 8 minutes actually meant. He said he tried to line everything up for departure, just to be ready to go when she was ready, right? So he got the shoes, he got the car keys, he got the coat, he got her backpack. Now only 6 minutes to go. And he said, for the love of God, Alice, eat your toast, okay? It's cinnamon toast. It's got cinnamon and sugar on it, and I cut the crusts off for you. What more do you want? All right, you know what? That's it. We're out of time. You need to put on your shoes. And at the pinnacle of his frenzy, he said Alice looked up at him and asked, Daddy, can I say a secret? So John Green leaned over, and Alice cupped her little hands over her mouth. And even though they were alone in the house, she whispered. John says, I can't tell you what she said, of course, because it was a secret. But, he said, I will say that the content of her message was not the point, totally unremarkable. What stopped me dead was her whisper. I had no idea she could whisper. I didn't know she knew what whispering was. In a whisper, He said, the vocal cords don't vibrate. The motion is so small. It's more the absence of something than the presence of something. It's more breath than sound. He says, being busy is a way of being loud. And what my daughter was telling me was that she needed some quiet space for her voice to be heard. She was telling me that I didn't need to be airport Alex. Not right then. She was reminding me that this moment mattered. And that in this moment, we were okay. Alice is older now, and John Green says that these days, when his daughter whispers to him, it's usually to share a worry that she finds embarrassing or frightening. It takes courage, he says, even to whisper our fears. But I'm so grateful that I'm a person she trusts with them. I'm so grateful we have each other, even when I don't quite know how to answer her worries. But often, he says, I find myself responding to her whispers with the same few words. You'll be okay. You'll be okay. I said last week in my message back in Bell Hall that it's part of our DNA here at Wellsprings. We believe in the power of community, that healthy human relationships, friendships, loved ones, these relationships offer a connection to the sacred. We need that today, this week. And even if those connections are a quiet whisper now, compared to the loudness of our busy world that we have long been used to, even if those connections, those relationships are a quiet whisper now, they are still here. And they still nurture that greater relationship, that relationship to the source of all love and all compassion. There's a rabbi at a synagogue in Los Angeles, the Rabbi Yosef Kanevsky, and he sent an email this week to his congregation. An email a lot like the one I sent to all of you on Thursday night. An email a lot like the ones that rabbis and imams and pastors and priests, I'm sure, have been sending all over the country. And in his email to his community, in the midst of all of the logistics and practical updates that he needed to share, he also took a moment to suggest that they take some care with that phrase that we're all using now, social distancing. The phrase, he says, has become kind of a shorthand for all of the very important physical precautions that we are in a world now where we need to take if we want to protect ourselves and each other. We are still getting used to this. But at the same time, he says, that phrase, social distancing, I want us to take it lightly. I want us to be careful how we use it, because the last thing we need right now is a mindset of distance and disconnection. We need to be thinking as much as possible. We need to be practicing and noticing, thinking in the exact opposite way. He says every hand we don't shake must become a phone call or a text that we send. Every embrace that we avoid with each other has to become a verbal way of expressing warmth. Has to become a, I miss you. How are you? I wish we could be together. Every inch, he says, and every foot that we physically place, all 6 feet of them between ourselves and each other, must become a thought about how we can help if the need arises. Our physical distance is strange. It may still be scary. It may still be hard. We have worries out there about things that are outside of our control. but maybe we also can begin to practice looking for reminders all around us that we don't always need to be Airport Alex. That maybe just for a moment here and there, we can listen to the small voices, the whispers, the breaths that are around us and that are also inside of us. As Rabbi Kanevsky said to his congregation, who knows if it was for this time that we have been practicing? Who knows if it was for this time that we have committed ourselves to walk in God's ways? Amen. And may you all live in blessing. Take a moment to close your eyes, to bow your head, relax your shoulders, and pray with me. God of our hearts, God beyond our understanding, and yet here. God who we cannot explain or define, but who is around us. That force of love and connection, that force of miracles, that force of all of the things that we can't understand. In these times, may all of us learn to listen and notice and look for that source of connection. To listen and notice and look differently than we ever have before. May all of us across this whole country find the space in our hearts to make room for the quiet voices, to make room for the labored breathing, for the truth of our dependence on each other. And may this time of distance teach us to remember just how vital and life-giving all of our connections to each other really are. For these prayers that I have spoken, and for the prayers that everyone is carrying on their hearts this morning, we say amen. We will share one more song with you now, and then we will extinguish our chalice together. So the light in Kathy Burke Howe's house may go out, but the source that sparked it, it stays in each of our homes and with each of us. And together we say, As we release this flame from its faithful service today, we allow the spark in each of us to burn on, to warm our compassion, to fire our delight, to light our paths, today, tomorrow, and always. Friends, I hope to see you again soon in person. I'm sure I will. I'll try to have some new hair color to show off by then. Until then, I'll see you on the screen.